Next are energy price campaigns. Three of the big six have put their prices up in the last fortnight. SSE by 8.2%, British Gas 9.2%. This week, npower topped the lot with a rise of 10.4%. The other three yet to make their move. The government has suggested wearing another jumper or switching suppliers. And yesterday, former Conservative Prime Minister John Major weighed in.
If we have a hard winter, which is quite likely, there are many people this winter who are going to have to choose between keeping warm and eating. And I don't think that is acceptable.
We'll look at switching in a minute. First, Chris, put your questions to SSE's Managing Director of Retail, Will Morris.
You've put your prices up. Why 8.2%?
Elements that go behind the bill have all gone up, and 85% of those are outside our direct control. So that's mainly the cost of actually supplying the energy itself on the wholesale market, the cost of actually transporting the energy into people's homes, and then most significantly, the bit that's gone up most proportionally are these government schemes, these energy efficiency and levy schemes have gone up by 15%.
But if we break down these costs, I mean, you talk about the government levies and the taxes, they're a small proportion of that bill.
Well, they can only account for 10% of the bill. We could take £110 off customer bills tomorrow if those levies weren't there.
So it's the government's fault?
Well, I think it's the reality of our system, the way we actually manage energy. I mean, clearly we play a part in that. I think what we need to do is have an honest debate around energy. The reality is the costs are going to go up. We have got ageing infrastructure where the government rightly is trying to replace that. That has a cost to it. And of course, finally, we've taken this aspiration, almost to be first of the pack, to become greener faster than anybody else. That's fine, but we can't magic that, that green revolution. We're not in Disneyland. We can't sort of wave a magic wand and pay for it all. It's got to be paid for. Our contention is it's not the right way to stick it straight across everybody's bill, irrespective of whether they can pay for it. It should be within our progressive taxation system.
How can the Big Six justify their own wages, which are in millions of pounds, while charging extra amounts of money to those people that are in fuel poverty? I think about £6.3 million in bonuses to executive directors of this company. The CEO, £600,000 in bonuses.
All that I can tell you is that within the FTSE 250, the top 250 companies in the UK, we're in the lower sort of tranche, the lower sort of third of that. So the salaries are, by any comparison, good salaries, but they're an awful lot lower than equivalent-sized companies across our country.
So you're not, as Ed Miliband said on our programme, profiteering?
No, we're not. We're absolutely not. And I think it's somewhat, I'm disappointed by that accusation that he's made, not least because he was Energy Secretary and understands the reality of the market. We take about 5p in the pound, a 5% margin, which is slightly less than supermarkets and a lot less than mobile phone companies.
How much of those profits is being reinvested for the future?
We invest £4 million a day as a group, which, when you total up, actually slightly more than our group profit was last year. So the simple answer is the vast majority, unless we actually replace the infrastructure, unless we develop the capacity to actually produce energy in a more efficient way in the future, we're never going to get to the place where we all want to aspire to be, which is a much more sort of carbon efficient, lower cost energy offering.
Here's a question from one of our viewers, and I'd like to hear what you think of it. Has privatisation of household energy supply helped the customer?
Great question. We have seen a number of positives as a consequence of privatisation. Until in the last few years, we actually saw prices, falling for the early noughties, and it's only more latterly, as for all the reasons we discussed earlier, that they've gone up again. So I think in terms of competition, there's that having that many different suppliers has led to, I think, a lot more innovation and many improvements. But it's fair to say that what privatisation has not yet, but certainly not delivered, and it probably should have done by now, is that feeling of confidence and trust.
Is there enough choice, do you think? Or are you all roughly, I know you're not in cahoots, but you're all roughly going to offer the same thing?
Well, I think there's certainly a much bigger choice than would be commonly referred to as just the big six. I mean, there are 20 different suppliers out there. There's still a range of tariffs. There's still a choice of different products and services people can choose.
You've put your prices up. Would you choose your company if you had to choose a bill?
Most customers are pretty smart, and they know that all the things we've talked about, the reason those prices have gone up, are the same pressures on other energy companies. And as all of the media's reported, it's probably quite likely that other people will be raising prices.
Why do you put up with prices? In the winter, when demand for energy during the season is at its peak, the vulnerable people really do suffer.
The simple answer to that is we try and put off any price increase to the last possible moment. So yes, we could have put an increase in it earlier, but of course that would have had a worse effect in a sense, because we would have been paying for it earlier.
I've got an emotional question to ask. This parent is barely able to afford the cost. We had to limit how often our heating came on. Unfortunately, this resulted in our 11-month-old baby being hospitalised for 1 week after developing a chest infection, which progressed to pneumonia. Does the owner of your company, your CEO, struggle to keep his babies warm too?
I think it sounds to me that in that particular example, that person should be qualifying for a number of benefits, including the warm home discount and probably eco schemes and everything else. And so if they're one of our customers, then please call us. And we will do our utmost to help them. We have our own fund of about £4 million we put together as we go through the winter to help customers who are struggling to pay their bills. And the other thing that we also do is however bad someone's situation gets, we don't cut anybody off at all throughout the 6 months of the winter.
Well, plenty of blame being laid at the government store there. We'll get its response next week when Energy Secretary Ed Davey joins us in the studio. But as price rises continue, should we follow the Prime Minister's advice and shop around to get a better energy deal? With me now is Tom Lyon from the largest energy price comparison service, Uswitch. The number of people, incidentally, switching through this site has gone up in the last fortnight by a staggering 600%. Tom, why is switching worthwhile?
Simply, it can save you lots of money and protect you from the price rises that we're seeing at the moment.
OK, shouldn't you wait until the 6 energy companies have all put up their prices?
No, it's a common misperception.
OK.
The 3 that haven't at the moment are offering some pretty competitive deals that will allow you to fix your prices for anything up to 4 years into the future. When they announce a price rise, I guarantee they're going to be removing a lot of those deals. It's a case of getting them now, like this hour, this day.
And the fixed rate, are they mostly going to be lower than the current rate or higher?
Well, if you get them now, actually, the tariffs that are offering you fixed rates for years into the future are actually as competitively priced as any variable rates.
And how difficult? Is it easy, difficult to switch?
It's very easy. It takes about 5 minutes on a price comparison site like ours to get a comparison of the whole market, about 5 minutes more to give your details and switch, and then everything's managed for you.
And how do you make your money?
We get a small commission when you switch, but we're regulated by Ofgem. That means that has absolutely no impact on the service we provide to you.
So it's an unbiased opinion?
Completely.
OK. And you stick to the rules?
Absolutely. If we didn't, no one would use us. Hundreds of thousands of people use us every day.
OK, enough advertising. How much can a typical consumer expect to save? Over to Chris.
Thanks, Ellie. Let's find out. Now, we have got 4 Watchdog viewers with us tonight, and we're going to see whether switching is right for them, and if so, how much money could they save? First up is the lovely Jenny Barkesh. She is an SSE customer for gas and electricity. She lives with her son in a 3-bed semi in Derby. This year, her predicted bill is £1,279. Next, E.ON electricity customer Amy Jo Smith. She lives with her husband and 2 children in a 2-bed terrace in Bedfordshire. Her predicted bill is £1,110. And finally, we have Godfrey and Pam Harris, EDF customers for both gas and electricity. They live in a 3-bed semi in the West Midlands, and this year's predicted bill is £1,673. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to start with you, Jenny. Are you worried about your bill?
I am very worried.
Why is that?
My suppliers told me that they're taking me off the online tariff I've been on since I joined them and putting me on the standard tariff, as well as increasing the price of that by 9%.
Right, OK. And Amy Jo, have you ever switched?
I've never switched before, no.
Why not?
Because the kilowatt jargon confuses me. And
I think you're not alone, by the way, the kilowatt jargon. And how about you, Pam and Godfrey? Have you switched before?
We've switched 3 times in the past.
And worked?
It has worked for a short time, but recently utility bills have been going up relentlessly, and they have become a real worry.
OK, I can see, Pam, you're worried, aren't you?
Very.
OK, well, hopefully Tom will sort it all out. That's to Big Tom there. All of them have very different circumstances. Tom, it's over to you. We'll be back later to find out if switching is the best option.